Where is Nikhil Arora? Nikhil is here from Back to the Roots. Right on. Nice to meet you, too. Come on up. Presentation? You got it. Does he?
All righty. Thank you guys very much for the invite. So excited to spend this next 5 rapid fire minutes giving you a little overview on Back to the Roots. So excited to share a little story about how a couple paint buckets of mushrooms, investment banking, turned into a ready-to-grow and ready-to-eat line shared in 14,000 stores nationwide. And quick backstory, this whole company, Back to the Roots, started up during our last semester in college. A couple years ago at Berkeley, we were both undergrads, Alex and I, and we came across this random idea that you could possibly grow gourmet mushrooms on entirely recycled coffee grounds. And something about that one fact inspired the both of us, and we both actually met up off of that fact, started watching YouTube videos, reading articles online, growing some test paint buckets of mushrooms in Alex's fraternity kitchen closet. And that, plus a little bit of early support from Whole Foods, Chez Panisse, and a $5K grant from our chancellor, convinced us at that time we were crazy enough to decide, you know what, forget investment banking, forget consulting, full-time urban mushroom farming it is, and decided to dive into it. And it's been quite the roller coaster since then. And we spent the next 8-9 months collecting coffee grounds from Pete's Coffee, learning how to grow mushrooms, finally started selling fresh mushrooms to Whole Foods and restaurants and grocery stores. And along the way, we kind of realized that our customers were more excited about not just what we were growing, but how we were growing them. And they started coming by and doing tours of our farm and asking us, hey, can I actually take those back and do that myself at home? And eventually, enough of those questions inspired us to try to create the first home mushroom kit. And after a journey in design, going from a big, bulky bag that our Whole Foods buyer said was the most disgusting thing he's ever seen, to finally what it is today, which is our first product, the Grow at Home Mushroom Kit, the Mushroom Mini Farm, sold in about 10,000 stores nationwide, and we're getting just thousands and thousands of photos coming in where you pop the box open, and in 10 days you get about a pound and a half of fresh mushrooms right out of the box. And it started off in a local Berkeley farmers market, is now sold nationwide in Whole Foods, Home Depot, Target, Costco. It's been really fun to see the power of transparency and growing your own food. And along the way, we actually visited a big aquaponics farm and said, can we take that same lens of design and sustainability and bring that to aquaponics? And took a large industrial aquaponics farm and shrunk it down via a Kickstarter campaign to the first home aquaponics kit, which is our second product, the Water Garden, a 3-gallon self-cleaning fish tank that grows food. And we launched this with Whole Foods, Petco, and Nordstrom. And it's been so much fun. I think we had these 2 products learning about the power of just connecting families back to their food by letting them grow it themselves. And since then, we launched our third ready-to-grow product, these little gardens in a can. Come recyclable, closed cans. You pop them open, ready to grow fresh herbs like right on your windowsill. And it's kind of been this expansion for us of this ready-to-grow line, and actually turned into, just 3 weeks ago, a 1,000-store launch with Target of a whole ready-to-grow section in end cap, which was one of the most exciting moments for us as a company. And going from here, though, kind of wrapping up, is the last 6 months have been one of the most incredible 6 months for us. This realization that if we're on this mission to connect families back to their food and where it comes from, it can't just be ready-to-grow products. It's also got to be ready-to-eat products. And that grocery and produce shouldn't be 2 separate worlds. Grocery should just be produce that's cooked a little bit, not invented new foods and ingredients. And we started working with Costco and Whole Foods, did a ton of farm tours to try to launch our first ready-to-eat product. One of those farms is the wheat farm, and we were absolutely blown away of how little we knew about a food we eat every single day. And more than that, we started diving into how is wheat actually grown and how is it milled. And it's crazy when you walk in the first mill to see what's taken out of wheat today. All the stuff you buy back at $20 a pound supplements in Whole Foods should be left in that wheat. And even the FDA's definition today of a whole grain product just means 51% has to be whole grain. And we started asking ourselves, if you ask a 5-year-old that, they're not going to say that's Whole Foods. How else did it used to be done? And we started visiting tons of other mills, fell in love with stone milling, and realized, can we take the same passion for growing food and undoing food and apply that to the ready-to-eat category? And in this case, undoing food back to how it used to be made, wheat, how it used to be milled. Looked at different categories, how we could apply that. And the category that started screaming out at us was this guy right here, the breakfast cereal category. And so excited to announce our first ready-to-eat product we launched 3 months ago, which is a brand new breakfast cereal. And it's actually the first 100% stone ground, US grown breakfast cereal made with just 3 ingredients. And the whole focus here is how can we bring that same ethos of growing food to ready to eat food with just beyond organic. It's about radical transparency. We actually put the recipe for the cereal on the box and the recipe for the packaging on the box. You can literally go home and make these flakes yourself. And packaging-wise, it's crazy how a 100-year-old category hasn't changed. We launched it for the first time in a non-bag-in-the-box format, 25% less packaging, alongside these really fun breakfast toppers to customize your own breakfast. All that has been popping up now in Costco, Target, Whole Foods, and at the end of the day, we just actually raised our first $2 million round to pursue this vision of undoing food. And thank you. Undoing food. And for us, it comes down to images like this. There's thousands of images of how do we get the next generation. We ask ourselves, what would craft foods look like if it was invented today? And for us, it's beyond organic. It's beyond natural. It's radical transparency. It's radical simplicity. And that's what we're working on, is this notion of the new doing of food. Let's do the undoing of food, where technology is not used to invent new foods. Food shouldn't be patented. Let's use technology to better distribute and teach people about food. Let's just take food back to how it used to be done and bring it back to new generation. That's what we're working on, back to the roots. Thank you so much. That was a quick 5 minutes.
Right on. Good stuff. Okay, so we have 4 minutes and 46 seconds for questions. Hands up high, please. Nobody. JP.
Thanks, Nikhil. I heard you say you want to be the new Kraft Foods. Do you see yourself moving into beverages?
In the future, it's not close to us. I mean, people would have asked us 2 years ago, could a mushroom kit company launch a new breakfast cereal? I think people thought we were crazy. So I think food should all be the same idea. I think as long as it's taken back to the idea of the undoing of food, we ask ourselves, like, what's the simplest, most transparent way to make it? If that can be applied to a beverage, absolutely.
Thank you.
Anybody else? This is an open floor.
Hi. Oh,
We
I
got-
can stand up. How it looks lovely. Would you know what's next? On which variables or aspects
Yeah.
do you decide your future products?
A big part of, for us, how we look to the future now is the idea of how can we take this lens of design, sustainability, and a big ethos for us. How do we create a company? We kind of call it the Pixar of food, right? Where it's designed through a kid's lens, but still have enough depth and sophistication where adults appreciate it. And it's a really exciting time now because this lens of undoing food can be applied to so many different categories. And that's been a big part of this launch for us, is how do we, as our first step, tackle the cereal category? And then you start looking around from countless of the categories you can apply that same lens to. And that, to us, is what is driving us so much, where we see what Kraft Foods was in the 50s and 60s, then you had your first natural food brands in the 70s and 80s. I think there's an incredible opportunity here to build that next wave for millennials and their kids of like you said, beyond organic. What's that next food brand going to represent? And that's what we're kind of working on, and back to the roots.
Hi. I'm curious, based on what seems like a really interesting story, what's the biggest lesson learned, or if you were giving advice to a startup that was just starting out, what would you have to say?
I think the biggest lesson learned for us is not trying to do everything ourselves. I think we started off our first 2 years, we were doing, we wake up at 5 a.m., collect coffee grounds, plant them, harvest them, go to Whole Foods, demo it, try to sell it, and weren't doing any of those very well. And I think the lesson learned there was find partners who can do stuff better than we can. And probably the best move we made was moving our mushroom farm up to a partner who were the first guys about 30 years ago to grow gourmet mushrooms in North America. And they took our production on up in Sebastopol. Now we have a farm in Michigan with them. And all of a sudden, 75% of our time that was going to something we weren't very good at could be applied to some, creating new products and focusing on what we are good at. So that lesson, which was a tough lesson of letting go of our baby, was by far the best lesson we could have learned. And it's allowed us now to kind of really expand our reach, I think, with our brand. Oh, yeah.
Green.
It seems like you were able to move pretty fast from growing mushrooms in a bag to putting cereal in the store of Target and Costco and Walmart. How were you able to move so quickly? And are you still growing mushrooms?
We are still growing mushrooms. So the mushroom kit is actually still one of our leaders for us. We just, like I said, the Target launch was our largest launch to date, 1,000 stores nationwide, and it's been doing really well in Home Depot. We just went from 400 stores to 900 Home Depots this spring, be 1,900 Home Depots with the mushroom kits this holiday season. But I think a big part of it is working with our partners. We co-developed the cereal alongside Costco, Whole Foods, and Amazon. And we launched the Water Garden with Petco, Nordstrom, and Whole Foods. And I think being able to work with our retailers has allowed us to be able to execute on those kind of product passions and visions and get them into stores a lot faster. And so right now, actually, we're working on 2 more SKUs of cereal alongside Kroger. And so there'll be 1,000 Krogers this fall, but we're guaranteed the 3 slots because we're kind of doing it with them. So I think a big part of it is how can we work with our retailers and not just bring them new ideas at the very end, like we do with the mushroom kit, where our buyer was like, that's the most hideous thing I've seen. And it took us another 6 months to figure that out. So that's the biggest lesson I think we've learned in that area.
Hi there, Alessio from Crowdfooding. First of all, congratulations for putting together such great products. I was wondering, how did you guys started? How did you put the company until you got actually investors, and how hard was for you guys to onboard the first investors?
So a quick thing, I think that the beauty, and this is the power of waste. I got to tell a story. You know, we bootstrapped our company for the first four and a half years until literally 2 weeks ago when we raised this round. And a big part of that is, we started off collecting coffee grounds. Our biggest raw material for mushrooms was the coffee grounds, which we were getting paid to collect. So we were Pete's Coffee's waste management company. We were getting paid and making a slight profit off our biggest raw material, growing the mushrooms, and then realized that the leftover waste from that process is actually when there was premium soil amendments that we could then sell to Home Depot and Whole Foods. So here we had something that was going in the trash, and it shows you the waste of waste all still had value in it. And I think we've tried to apply that same lens now to a lot of our different products, but that kind of, our first displays in Home Depot were made out of their recycled pallets from Home Depot. So they were actually subsidizing $60 units in 1,000 stores. That would have been a lot of money. So I think things like that helped us get here. And then, with this round, most of these folks were all really close mentors, which I think meant the most to us, that these weren't investors that came in yesterday. They've been with us for the last 4 years and seen the ups and the downs and still wanting to commit. So I think that was what inspires us the most and is motivating us right now to keep on working our butts off at this.
All right. Round of applause for Back to the Roots.